If you're not a power tool person, you're like, whoa, power tools, it's gnarly, you know? Welcome to Polishing for Beginners. And we're polishing for beginners at the Vault of Scottsdale, one of the most amazing little slices of car heaven in the entire state of Arizona here in Scottsdale. So what about polishing scares you? As a beginner, or you're considering buying a kit, most people have that fear of possibly causing damage to their car. I'm gonna walk you through a process that is so safe and it's so easy. Using an orbital polisher, you don't need to worry about causing damage to your finish. This process is something that we've been doing for so long. We've helped so many people get a flawless finish on their car, and the results are so consistent. We're gonna show you how to do it on this beat up Mustang. This thing was painted years and years ago. It's hammered. We're gonna show you how to achieve perfection on a little tiny area like this, and we're gonna do that before we just do the whole car. When you're considering using these products to get perfection on your car, remember, you don't need to learn on your baby. Your favorite car in your garage does not need to be the guinea pig. Use your SUV, use your truck, use your neighbor's beater. Also, remember that all the stories you've heard about a rotary buffer, a buffer which is spinning tool, using a wool bonnet, using super heavy compounds. People go, oh, I burned a car once, or maybe you burned a car once. This tool has almost nothing in common with that tool, okay? The orbital polishers are so safe. I can hold on to it at setting 3,000 oscillations per minute. Realize, this is not gonna hurt your car. This very quick tutorial is gonna walk you through, it's gonna reduce your anxiety, reduce your fears, and it's gonna help you achieve a perfect finish on your car, and you don't need to worry. Now, before we start polishing and perfecting the paint, we wanna make sure that we're starting with a smooth finish. When you feel it after you've washed it, and it makes a sound like this, there's an audio track to you touching your car, you need to use either a clay bar or fallout remover, a spray that we sell. Check out the video right here. Or if you're washing the car before you're finished washing it, you can go ahead and use a clay mitt. Check out this video. I'm gonna go ahead and go old school with the clay bar. This is our Visco clay. This removes bonded contaminants, which are overspray, fallout, tree sap, anything that's making the surface bumpy. Lubricate it with the detail spray, and I'm gonna do the entire area that I plan to polish. Speaking of planning to polish, I almost never try to polish a whole car in a single day. In fact, I try to do one panel a week. I don't have time to do the entire car. I want each panel perfect, and getting perfect really takes time. So, wow, something was painted red very close to this car. See the overspray? So when you're claying your black car and all of a sudden you pull up a whole bunch of red overspray, that means maybe my buddy Randy, whose car this is, maybe he was painting his brake calipers over on his workbench right here. Aerosols, rattle can, and boom, we've got red all over our clay bar. When it comes to clay, you have multiple options. By far, my absolute favorite is the Visco clay bar. For one, I like the fact that when it becomes contaminated with all the overspray and stuff like that, it stretches and folds. I love that it's basically a plastic type of a clay bar. Next, it comes with a tool, a geo tool, which puts this awesome print in it. That print helps me pick up more contaminants, kind of like a tire with tread holds you on the road when the surface gets wet. This little pattern on this helps you remove more contamination with less passes. So now I've got an area. I can see that I've got some of the detail spray left over, right? That's the clay lubricant. I don't necessarily have to remove it, but if I really want to see well what I'm working on, I'll take a towel and just quickly wipe it down. By the time I'm really polishing on the whole car, this process, the step of removing the detail spray, the lubricant, is totally unnecessary. You can polish right over it. Watch, listen to this now. Okay, after, before. So that sound is the sound I want. I want zero sound when I'm touching the finish. Now we're gonna be working on a really slick surface. What's the first step? Well, the first step is to find out what this car needs. You don't want to do the whole entire car to figure out what it really needed. You want to do what's called a test area. I like to do about 1 to 2 feet in a square. That's just enough space for you to figure out exactly what perfection will require for this car. So before we start, we want to find out what the current finish looks like. Lighting is key. We sell a whole ton of lights, from these little tiny guys like this, all the way up to full-on shop lights. We sell garage lights, you name it, but make sure that your lighting is excellent. This car here is definitely rougher than a night in jail. It is super, super rough. Painted many years ago. It's been wiped with cruddy towels with lots and lots of little tags hanging off of them, and there are just swirls everywhere. So on this car, it's not even a question, does it need everything? Yes, this car does. So my assessment early on is that this car is gonna need some compounding. Compound is what you use to eliminate paint defects. Compounding is resolving paint issues, scratches, oxidation. All those things are resolved with compound. So before I just hit the polisher on this car and just start compounding, I want to make sure that what this car needs, I want to get it figured out in what I call a test area. That's about a 2 foot by 2 foot area that I want to polish to perfection. And if I can't get that 2 foot by 2 foot area done perfectly, then I don't even want to get going on the car. Wait till you get perfection first figured out. What pad, what polish, what compound, what speed, all those things, they're gonna vary between this older Mustang with black nasty paint and this Ferrari F40, which just needs a light polish and a little bit of ceramic coating in my humble opinion. That's a huge difference in the amount of effort. So make sure you figure out how much effort's gonna be required for your car first. Which polisher are you gonna go with? Well, if you're starting off, I tell everybody that's starting off, make sure you have one of these. This is a Mini Pro. Has a 3.5 inch pad. The reason I like the 3.5 inch pad over the 5.5 inch pad is that the 5.5 inch pad is so big that when I'm polishing, I can't possibly get every angle. I can't get the A pillars, the B pillars. I can't get this pad to fit everywhere. So you absolutely must have the Mini. It's nice to have the 5.5 inch pad, but this is the starter, okay? You start with this tool. This tool gets up into the nooks, into the crannies, under the door handles. This will get all the little spots. So start with the smaller polisher. You'll be able to get way more of your car perfect. Now, the reason that we do a test area is to make the entire process as efficient as possible. I want to accomplish perfection on this paint in the fewest number of steps possible. Car paint is very consistent on brand new cars that are all rolling off the factory on the assembly line, right? Every single car is the same. Now, once a car has been through some life, experienced some washing, some drying, the number of scratches on it, the amount of damage, it varies widely. Then, once a car has been repainted, boom, there's a zillion different variables now to take into consideration. So we won't know on this car what it's gonna take to make it perfect because it's been repainted. I always start with the Mini, okay? This little tool is so easy to use. It's variable speed. Okay, you can remove the cord to change out with other polishers. I like to have the cord over my shoulder. Using the Mini polisher, this uses a 3.5 inch pad. If I want to use the safest possible method, I'm going to use the soft polishing pad, okay? And I'm going to use a couple drops of polish. I am almost positive that this will not fix the damage on this finish. But if you want to go the safest possible route, this is it. Using 1, 2, 3 little drops of polish on the white polish pad, I'm gonna go ahead, spread this out a little bit. I'm gonna leave this at setting 4 to start, okay? And a few more things to think about before I turn it on. When you're using an orbital polisher, one of the things that makes it really, really easy is to keep the polisher cool. You have vents on the tail of the polisher and vents over the head. I let them all breathe, so I hold the polisher over the head and off the tail. The other reason I like to hold the polisher off the tail is that if I'm coming down the A-pillar, for instance, and I bonk the polisher into the paint, I have my hand under the belly, okay? My hand's always there. It keeps the polisher so that any of the hard plastic or even the rubber pieces will never make contact with the car. So when I turn this on, I put it on the car. You never have your polisher on unless it's actually touching a finish. If you hold it in the air and let it just spin by itself, well, for one, you could possibly spin polish or compound on yourself. For two, you'll really reduce the lifespan of the Velcro on the back of the pad. It'll start spinning really fast. That makes the pad not last nearly as long. So I've got it on the car, I've got it at setting 4, and I'm gonna go ahead and do just a little area to see, can I polish out the damage versus compound? Spreading out the polish. And before I cross any body seam, I want to make sure and thin the product out on the finish. Body seam between the hood and the fender, that's a body seam. Okay, then I can cross the body seam no problem. I don't want to dump tons of polish or compound down those cracks. Now I'm overlapping each pass by about 15%, just enough so that I know that I'm gonna have a very even finish. If I overlap 80%, it's gonna take me 4.5 years to finish the car. The other thing, I went up and back and then side to side, okay? Doing both directions, that's sometimes called cross hatching. That gives me the ability to make sure that I cross each one of the little scratches at least once, if not twice. Then I'm done, I'm gonna turn it off. I turn off the tool while it's sitting on the car and then I pick it up, okay? So now we're gonna see, will this do it? Can I possibly just polish the car and be done with it? That looks a whole bunch better. However, it is definitely not perfect. Come here, have a look and you can be the judge. Are we 100%? I put it in A, B, C, or D. So after that white pad and the polish, we definitely made an improvement, but I will give this a C- still, which is in no way satisfactory to me. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna step it up one pad and we're gonna step up to the compound, okay? Removing the white and moving on to the blue foam. Now we have multiple pads for compounds. We have microfiber, we have wool, but this is the least aggressive, the least abrasive, okay? The blue pad that says compound on the back of it, you use with the blue compound. Not exactly hard to follow that program. 3 little dots of compound onto the pad. You don't want to overuse polish or compound, okay? Just makes it a messy process and you won't get better results. I want to get this spread out a little bit and I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I want to turn it down to 2 before I crank it all the way back up, okay? So just want to get this compound spread out. And I want to make sure I don't see any white or light blue residue that's still sitting on the finish, okay? Before I turn the speed up. So now, setting 4. When you just start off and the polishing pad is brand new, you'll notice that the polisher might have a tiny bit of vibration or a tiny bit of a wobble to it. As you continue to polish, or compound I should say, it'll slowly go away, okay? So a new pad is a tiny bit firm and that starts to slow. I go right up to the body panel, right up to the panel gap here where the hood and the fender meet, and then I cross over that, okay? Overlapping 15% once again. And then I'm gonna cross hatch, going the opposite direction. And turning the polisher off as it's touching the vehicle. We always do that, okay? So now let's take a look. I would give this a B+, okay? 85, 87%. So to some people, a B plus is probably really good. However, it's not exactly my goal. My goal is an A. I only want to play if I can get an A. So we're gonna step up. We're gonna step up the aggressive pad from the compound pad, the blue foam. We're gonna step that right up to the microfiber cutting pad, which incidentally also says compound on the back, which also has blue on the pad. The microfiber cutting pad, crazy enough, it's thinner, but the microfiber actually cuts faster and more thoroughly than the blue foam does. Once again, 3 dots, the compound, and then I'm gonna go ahead, rub it in a little bit, and then I like to bump the speed down as I work the polish in or compound in a little bit, and then I slowly speed it up once it's spread out. I always like to say, I don't have high expectations. I just want everything perfect all the time. Okay, that's nice and spread out. 4. Now this little pad, since it's so much thinner, handles very differently. The machine feels different in my hands using a thinner pad. Another thing to know, this little pad cuts much faster than the others. I just went across, and now I'm gonna go the opposite direction for a crosshatch. Overlapping 15% once again. And as long as you can see the compound going down on the finish, you don't need to add more. I love compounding. I love polishing. Now the microfiber cutting pad, when you're done polishing with this pad right here, this pad, all the microfibers flattened out and the compound is stuffed down. If I just set this polisher down right now and I go to pick it up later and I want to use this pad again, first of all, it's gonna be a dust cloud, okay? It's gonna be all dusty and nasty. So I wanna brush out this pad after every single use. For me, the ideal thing to do is to do it over a trash can. How about a trash can? Oh man, this is the exact perfect option right here. Over your 33-gallon garage trash can, I can put the polisher all the way down inside of it. And when I use this pad conditioning brush, which by the way, this is a great tool. These nice soft nylon bristles keep the pad alive while removing all of the dried compound from the inside of the microfiber. Also, the other side is what you do to slide it in there to pull the pads off of the tool. So this little guy, I'm gonna stay up a little bit so you can see it, but when you're doing it at home, the deeper you go inside the can, the less mess you're gonna have with the dust, okay? So I'm gonna turn it on. I'm slowly just brushing all that dried compound out. I can definitely see it on the inside of this bag. And now you'll see I've got a nice fluffy pad again, okay? Now it's back to perfect. Make sure that you brush out your pad after every single use. When you're done at the end of the day with all of your pads, you're gonna wanna clean them. We have a very specific chemical that helps you clean these pads, microfiber towel and pad revitalizer. You're gonna clean all of these after every time that you've done a full car or a full panel, making sure that the next time you come, you won't have dusty pads that have old dried compound or polish in them. Now let's have a look-see how this process went. And since we did use a more aggressive pad, very often you will find that using a more aggressive pad, using the microfiber cutting pad or our wool pad, it will leave it a tiny bit hazy. Why? Well, I've just used a little bit more abrasive process, and that more abrasive process can sometimes just leave a tiny bit of haze behind. You'll be absolutely fine with that. Recognize you're gonna come back over it with either another step of the blue foam or even softer the polish, and you'll be able to eliminate that. Now, what I am seeing here is a very, very happy finish. This looks fantastic. So now I've hit the A. You get to this point now where you have total reflection. So we got to the A, that's what we wanted. And we figured out the soft blue foam didn't quite do it. we figured out that the microfiber cutting pad was the one. The one pad that we didn't have to use in the compound family, and again, anything with blue on it, these are the pads that are in the compound family of pads, okay? There's one more aggressive pad. It is our wool pad. If I'm correcting and I'm doing my best possible effort to get those scratches out, and they are just not coming out using the microfiber cutting pad, what I've got is really hard paint. And when I got really hard paint, I need to step up the aggressive level up to the wool pad. Now, if you're polishing on an Audi, you're polishing on a GM paint, those are two of the hardest clear coats out there. You're gonna notice that this really aggressive cutting pad doesn't always do the trick. So if you're working on a black car, certainly the scale is so clear. Perfect, flawed. The before and after is, oh, night and day. If you're looking at a silver finish, a light blue finish, a white finish, anything that's really light in color, light colored cars are harder to see damage. You can spend less time correcting them. And if it's your daily driver, even if it's a black, maybe you're good with a B+, okay? If you're good with a B+, driving around all the time, you're still gonna be looking better than 95% of all the cars on the road. Now I wanna go ahead and go back to finishing it with the polish, okay? Again, the pad says polish on it. It's a white pad, it's soft. I use it with the polish. However, I used it earlier. I wonder if I have some dried, oh, I certainly do, look at that. I might have some dried product on this. Before I go ahead and use this pad again, after I've used it before and I had some polish dry on it, let's use the pad brush. Thank you, Joe. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this thing down about a setting 3 for cleaning, okay? And then I'm gonna go ahead and just pull all of the dried polish out of the pad. You can see that the little tiny flakes fall off. Okay, so don't push too hard or you can make actual clumps of foam fall off the sucker, okay? So be thoughtful, don't sit there and go, grind it or do it too fast. Those are both things that'll hurt you. Okay, polish, simple, right? The Adams Polishes system is simple. The Adams Polishes founder, very simple. This all goes together just perfect. And this little process of using the polish now is gonna remove any haze that may have been left behind from compounding. You might not see the haze at all on a light color car, on a white car, on a silver car. You might actually be done with the compounding and be like, I'm thrilled with this. I don't even want to polish it. Skip it, go straight to the ceramic coating. You can do that. But on a dark color car, you will for sure see an upgrade in gloss if you go ahead and polish it, okay? I'm gonna spread this out a little bit. I'm gonna be at setting 4, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go over this area really nicely. So part of the safety feature of the dual action polisher is that if I end up here on an edge like this, you see it slow way down. That's good. That means I won't be having to worry about burning the finish. So dual action, spinning and orbiting. If I push too hard and it stops spinning, that's not what you want. People want to know how hard should they push. And I say 8 to 10 pounds. They're like, what? Here's the rule, right on the Adams logo. Put your thumb over that logo and push down. About as hard as you can push with your thumb on the logo, that's about how hard you can push on this tool to get maximum results. Okay. Remember also always to start the polisher on the panel. Finish with the polisher on the panel, turning the machine off before you lift it up, okay? You know when to stop. When you go ahead and when you cross-hatch the finish, you go up and back, up and back, up and back, side to side, side to side, side to side. At that point, you've crossed every single little bit of damage and you've crossed the panel twice. This way I have the maximum possibility of ending up with a flawless finish, especially with the polish. Now, removing the polish, I'm gonna end up with a finish here that should be mind-blowing. Well, before, we were kind of at a low A, high B, and at this point, we're all the way there. When you get to a point where you are satisfied with the finish on your car, that's what matters. So getting it to perfect is a possibility as long as the finish on the car has the capacity for perfection. Not every car is going to be able to be perfect. Realize if the car got painted years ago when there was like Maaco and Earl Scheib and all those really low-end paint jobs, you might not have a perfect finish to get flawless. However, if your car was painted within the last 10, 15 years, chances are really good that you can get a finish that you'll be very, very proud of. Now, once you get the paint to perfection like this, it's really important to do something to keep it that way. The number one thing that you can do to keep your paint looking great is to ceramic coat it. At this point, when it's time for you to put something on the car that's really gonna maintain that excellent finish, be scratch resistant, then you're considering ceramic coatings. Now, the other thing to think about, what you do to wash and dry your car, how do you dust it off? Those are all things also that if you don't think about those things, you can put damage straight back into your paint. If you're using the cheap big box retail towels on your car, make sure you're only using those for cleaning your exhaust tips or checking your oil. Using those really cruddy towels on your paint will scratch it. Make sure that you're not using one of those car dusters, okay? You know, the really inexpensive car dusters or even the expensive ones, you're dragging dirt over the finish. Avoid that. The other thing, when you're washing and drying, take a look at the videos here that'll show you how to do safe washing, safe drying. Make sure that you use a pressure washer when you're washing your car. This way you can pull a ton of dirt off without having to scrub it. This process, it's an easy one. I'm sure that you're gonna have questions. We are definitely here to help answer those questions. So fire away, tips@adamspolishes.com. We're here to help you.